All right, is there any delay? Can you hear me properly?
Loud and clear.
All right, I can hear you perfectly. Okay, so you don't know this, but I have recorded the intro for this podcast already. And I wanted to record the intro because I just didn't want to have what comes out of this conversation biased in what I said come into the intro. And in the intro, I said that this arguably could be the most controversial podcast that we've ever done. What do you think?
I agree with you. There is a lot of controversy around what we're going to be talking about. A lot of emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you just nailed it. The second part, you just nailed it. There's a lot of emotions. And I think, as we go through this conversation, there may be an acknowledgement of those emotions. There may not be. I don't know. But I think that there's a lot of things that people believe in. I think there's a lot of things that people love. I think that people have put a lot of hard um, love, sweat, and tears into careers. And they're seeing those careers amount to nothing because of this thing. And I think that just, amicable dialogue, good dialogue, discussions around it are going to be fruitful. And this is what the kind of thing that we love to do. We did exactly the same thing in the big elephant that came out of Botswana last year. We said we wanted to talk to all parties. I have reached out to the Amboseli Trust for Elephants, Joyce Poole. I've asked her, I'd love to podcast with you. I've had a couple of interactions with her over Instagram. I've sent her an email. Love to have her on the podcast. And similarly, we wanted to, like we did in Botswana, we talked to the professional hunter that was involved in the elephant hunt that happened in Botswana. And here we are doing the same thing. Zidane Janbeck, did I get that right?
Yes, sir. You
Welcome
did.
to the Blood Origins podcast. And
Thank you,
this
Robbie.
is essentially the first time you are saying anything, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. It's
Uh,
the first time, yes. I have not replied to anything. I have not spoken to anyone yet. Not that I didn't want to speak to anyone, it's just the laws that govern us did not allow me to speak.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of conjecture running around. There's a lot of ideas, rumors about lots of different things that are happening. And I reached out to you and I said, man, come on, let's just like lay all our cards on the table. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's just talk about everything so that everyone can hear from the horse's mouth, the guy that was there, right?
Yeah. Robbie, thank you very much for reaching out. Yeah, like it's taken a bit of time to get this together, but again, I had to reach out to Tanzania Wildlife Authority for permission to speak out because again, we're governed by different laws. I can't just go out there and just speak out. I need to ask permission to say anything. What I do, everything is managed by Tanzania Wildlife Authority. The work we do is under their supervision. So before I speak out anything, I have to consult them. So yeah, I've been given the green flag.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, Zidane, why don't you give me an idea of who you are? Um, Born and raised Tanzanian, I assume. Give me a little bit of context to who you are.
My family's been in Tanzania for about 4 generations now. That's my mother's side. My father's of Kenyan descent. My family moved in Tanzania in the early 1940s, if I get that correct. Moved in western Tanzania in the Tabora region, and we've been there since then. My family's still there. Part of my family on my father's side is still in Kenya and Lamu. So yeah, I mean, I speak on behalf. I can say confidently, I can speak on behalf of the Kenyan people and my people in Tanzania.
Well, I think today, you're going to represent yourself and you're going to represent the company and obviously
Yeah,
Tanzania. Um, And talk to me a little bit about your hunting. Did you always want to be a hunter? Did you grow up hunting? Or what was that like in Tanzania growing up as a kid, Zidane?
Yeah. Um, my family's been hunting for, yeah, like I said, we've been here for four generations of hunting. So I grew up in a hunting family. I've always wanted to hunt. I've I grew up in rural Tanzania, so like any other Tanzanian, I've lived in the middle of nowhere, interacted with, I mean, all the game that's there. I know what human wildlife conflict is. I've seen it firsthand. So I've seen the struggles of the Tanzanians.
Where'd you grow up,
Let's say
Zidane?
I grew up in Tabora, in the rural village. I grew up in Mwisi. That's Igunga side. Yeah.
And always knew that you wanted to do this? You wanted to become a professional hunter? Was that the destiny as a teenager?
Not necessarily, Robbie. Not necessarily to become a professional hunter, but then again, like I said, I saw an opportunity. Uh, it's I looked at all the options. I mean, again, we grew up hunting, and I thought it was the best method of conservation. That was my observation, and the best way I could get into conserving the wildlife, I thought, was to be a professional hunter. Did I put a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
there was
thought into it when I
also,
was getting into the hunting? Not necessarily. I mean, hunting has been a part of my life, and I just wanted to continue doing it.
yeah, you love hunting, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to say that we love hunting.
Oh, I love hunting. I love hunting. I don't shy away
You
from
love
it.
the adventure, you love the people, you
Yes.
love seeing the communities, you see the landscapes, you get up and close and personal with wildlife. All of that is part of it.
Yes. The
And
community. I
hunting,
think
from
the
a
community. Yeah. I think working with the communities has been a big part. It's more important to me than the hunting itself. I kind of went through a transition when I actually started to see what hunting does for the communities. I can relate. These are my people. I grew up in the same land as them. I see their struggles. So yeah, I can relate to their struggles, and we have done a massive conservation project. I mean, I would be so confident to say one of the biggest conservation projects in Africa.
what do you mean?
I mean, Kilombero North, we own about 14 hunting concessions. The Kilombero, so in the Kilombero, we own a total of six
You
concessions.
don't you don't own it, right? You lease it from the
We
government.
lease it. Yeah, when I say lease, we have a lease on the areas. We don't own the areas. We have about a
Okay.
15-year lease in the Kilombero. But before the 15-year lease, we had the areas for the last, so we've had them for a total of about 15 to 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. Listen, I joined the company about 5 years ago and just, I mean, took over the conservation project that was going on. The Kilombero amounts to about roughly 14,000 square kilometers. That's probably the biggest hunting concession in Africa, and it's still wild. Robbie, when I say wild, there's
14,000
not
square kilometers. I'm going to do some
a
math. Keep talking. I'm going
single
to do some math quickly.
human being in there. There's no cattle. This is wild country that we've preserved for years. Robbie, you still there? Can you hear me?
Zidane, a lot of people will say that hunting really doesn't do it. Who don't know anything. Hunting doesn't do anything for communities. Doesn't do anything for conservation.
Yeah.
Give me some examples.
What hunting has done for the communities? It depends. It depends. I think it really varies from uh, government policies, depending on what country you're talking about. But from a Tanzanian perspective, I think
Let's talk it from your perspective. From your
from my
perspective,
perspective,
you individually, you Kilombero specifically.
yeah, yeah. So the hunting blocks in Tanzania are divided in about four categories, I'd say five categories. So you start with open areas. These are areas around local communities. This is community owned land. And then you go to wildlife management area. That's almost the same as the open areas. So the open areas are controlled by Tanzania Wildlife Authority, but they're still in the hands of the locals. They can still dictate on what happens. Same as a wildlife management area like Enduimet. Enduimet's a wildlife management area. It's governed and run by the people around it. And then what you have is game controlled areas that's still under the supervision of Tanzania Wildlife Authority. And then you have game reserves and national parks. So I mean, you start looking at all the open areas, you look at the wildlife management areas, you look at all the game controlled areas. I mean, 75 of all the revenue generated out of those areas goes directly to the communities. This is not money the Tanzanian government keeps to themselves. This is money they give. 75% of whatever's paid for those areas on leases goes directly back to the communities. 45% of all the trophy fees on the animals harvested in the areas goes back directly to the communities. This is a law. This is not a favor the government does to the people. This is a law where they have to give back the money to the communities. So when you tell me hunting does not benefit the communities, I don't know what does.
So Dan, say that again. How much money goes back to the communities based on the trophy fee, based on government law?
So based on government laws, 75% of the block fees. So this varies. So Tanzania has a minimum bid depending on the category of the block. So on just on wildlife management areas, we'll get into that when we discuss about Enduimet. That's a little bit different on wildlife management areas. But on all the other categories I told you about, this is open areas, game controlled areas, game reserves. Whatever an outfitter or an operator pays to the government, 75% of that money goes back to the communities. And whatever in that season was harvested by hunters, 45 of the revenue collected on trophy fees goes directly back to the communities.
45% of the trophy
45%
fees.
of trophy fees
Okay.
goes back to the community.
And don't you have in Tanzania, isn't there something along the lines of don't you have to upfront 60% of your quota or 60% of the monies of the quota to the government or to the regional government or something? Is there something like that?
The only thing you have to upfront that is a set amount you have to pay for is your block fee, and then on whatever. As an outfitter, before the season starts, you submit your quota request. Then there's a cabinet set up by the government that then reviews your request, and they'll tell you what you can take out of that area. I mean, they do the research, they do the game counts, they know what is sustainable. So whatever you ask for, you have to utilize 40% of that. That's according to the Tanzanian regulations.
Oh, that's it. Whatever you ask for,
Yeah,
you have to use 40% of it.
40%. 40% of whatever you ask for, you have to utilize. And if you don't utilize it, you get penalized for 40% of the value of what you asked for. So if the value of the quota you asked for amounted to $500,000, you don't pay for it. You pay 40% of $500,000. That's still 40% of that still goes back to the community. So I mean, you tell me.
Okay. Regardless of whether you take it or not.
Regardless of whether you take it or not. So the communities are guaranteed money. The moment there's an investor in the area, the communities are guaranteed money one way or the other. This is different from photo tourism.
Gotcha.
This is different from photo tourism. There's no guarantee. You don't have a guarantee of money. There's no law that governs them, that requires them to pay anything upfront. Nothing. You don't pay anything upfront.
Okay. Well, let's use that and let's break down what's happening. Let's break down Enduimet there. Before we get into the elephants, I want to understand Enduimet. All right? I want to understand all the elements around Enduimet.
Yeah.
So what is Enduimet?
Enduimet is a wildlife management area. That's what it is. Enduimet is government.
And what does that mean?
These are areas that are populated. These are populated areas where the people thought the best way of conservation. So you go through a process. There's areas where nothing. There's areas where just townships and villages. The village goes through a process to register an area as a wildlife management area. It's a lengthy process. It takes a couple years. You have, I mean, research has to be done. You have to come with a general management plan. The Tanzanian government has to say it's sustainable. It's a lengthy process that we can't go through. But again, for an area to be established, there's a lot of effort, a lot of science, a lot of research being done for a grant for an area to be a wildlife management area. And all wildlife management areas are areas that are populated with people that wildlife and humans coexist in the same area. There's not a wildlife management area that's wild or that is free of people and free of cattle. All wildlife management areas is inhabits coexistence of humans and wildlife.
Okay. How big is Enduimet? And let me ask two questions. How big is Enduimet, and when did Enduimet become a wildlife management area?
I don't have the exact year Enduimet became a wildlife management area, but I don't know the exact figure either on the total how big Enduimet is, because it's divided into two. You have half of it is photographics and half of it is hunting. So what I operate
Okay.
in is
Well,
100 square kilometers.
okay, 100 square kilometers.
600 square
Enduimet,
kilometers.
oh, 600, sorry, 600 square kilometers. Okay. So if Enduimet's broken into two parts, who decided that they wanted to break the community decided they
The
wanted to
community,
break it in. They
yes,
wanted
yes,
both. They wanted
yes,
both consumptive use and non-consumptive use.
yes. When they did the general management plan to establish the wildlife management area, the community decided they'll split it into two.
Okay. Why do you know why the community decided that they wanted both?
I think so. The community doesn't make this decision alone. So you have experts from Tanzania Wildlife Authority, a few experts from Tanzania National Parks. They all come together and they advise the community on what's right. So they'll show them. So we've done a general management plan on an area that was just photographics. This is last year, and I was present when we did it. This area was just photographics. It was a wildlife management area, and for decades the people did not see the benefit when they. So a general management plan, as per the Tanzanian regulation, lasts for 10 years and then it expires, and then you can do a review. So once that is said and done, it has to last for 10 years for a review to be done and anything else to happen. So on the area that we reviewed the GMP, the locals had that areas as photographic areas for 10 years. They never saw the benefit of it, so we reviewed the GMP and turned it into photographics and hunting. So the process was very lengthy.
So
What happened was the experts from both sides came together, from the photographic side, and we represented the hunting side. We went through the figures and presented them to the communities, the leaders of the communities, that this is what we think hunting can bring to the community, and the guys from the photographic say this is what we think we can bring as photographic operators. So the community was like, well, since we're revising our general management plan, from what we've heard, we make the decision that we want to turn our area into a hunting area. We get more revenue, it makes more sense to us, it's much more profitable for us to turn our area into a hunting area.
so Enduimet had been established as a wildlife management area for 10 years with a management plan that was solely ecotourism. And at the end of those 10 years, they looked at it and said, we want to add consumptive use. We want to add hunting to our portfolio because they kept half of the block in
No,
tourism
this is no that,
and half the
that's not
block
Enduimet.
in hunting.
I gave an example of a different area. Enduimet from the time it was established carried both phototourism and hunting tourism. So
Sorry.
they are currently, as we speak, they are currently reviewing the general management plan. So the first 10 years have expired. It's been 6 months. They've been reviewing the general management plan for the last 6 months. and they still feel like they need both the hunting and photographics. So they're not going to change anything. It's just going to be carried forward. A few things are going to be changed. I'm not sure what it is. No one has influence over the decision they're going to make. But yeah.
Okay, well let's on. So that brings me to probably the first controversial question then. If Enduimet's been hunted for 10 years, right?
Uh-huh.
Have you been hunting Enduimet for 10 years?
No, we've been hunting it for this is the second year now.
Did they not hunt elephants the whole time?
I think the last elephants hunted. So Enduimet was formed. So all these areas before the formation of the WMA, this was just the Longido area. So it was one big game controlled area, back in the 90s. So Enduimet, Ngasorai, Longido were one big concession. This was all controlled by Tanzania Wildlife Authority. And then within time, the people in the area of Enduimet decided, okay, we want to start our own wildlife management plan, went through the process and established it. So if I'm correct, the 10 years, I would think Enduimet has existed for about 10 years. Yeah. So
Okay.
the last elephants shot in that ecosystem, I think, were the elephants shot in the 90s that brought a lot of controversy. I think it was 1994, somewhere
Correct.
there in the mid 1990s. Yeah.
Yeah, the four elephants that came out of Amboseli, the same controversy that we're dealing with right now. Four elephants. They were all not all of them were collared. I don't believe. I think 3 were collared and 1 wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, I think those were the last elephants hunted in that ecosystem.
So why all of a sudden are we hunting elephants versus the last 8 years? Do we know why?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't speak out for. So I speak on behalf of Kilombero North and what we do. I think the reason we pulled out the first permits. Yeah, there was a lot into it. I mean, there was a lot of research done by Kilombero North. There was a lot of back and forth discussions with the community on the best way to handle the crisis that was going on. Human wildlife conflict was over the roof. I mean, before we leased Enduimet, we had the neighboring concession of Ngasarai. Within 2 months, I think, within 2 months of being in Ngasarai, just as we got the lease there, I saw 2 dead elephants. These were all, I wouldn't call it snared. What they did was, I wouldn't know the right way to describe this, but they had barbs on the ground around the farms. Really sharp barbs that the elephants raiding the farms would eventually just walk on top of them. And I mean, it's a slow and cruel death for the elephant. And I got to witness that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we started looking at the best way to manage this. What would be the best way to make sure this doesn't continue happening? I mean, discussions with the locals. If you ask me what they think about the elephants, if they could get rid of the whole elephant population tomorrow, they'd do it. If we come to the question of
This is
what
the
the locals
this is the Enduimet community. The Enduimet community they
is the
said
whole
no problems. We want you to hunt elephants.
I mean, not hunt elephants. If there were no rules governing us, I think they'd spear every single elephant. If it was up to them, I mean, with what's going on right now, they saw no benefit. What did the elephants benefit them? Yeah. I mean, they mean the elephants. They see the elephants meaning more to the Western world than their lives. I mean, someone from outside values the elephants more than the life of a Maasai or the life of a Tanzanian. Why would they keep
Weren't the
coexisting?
elephants though benefiting the community? Weren't they benefiting the community from an ecotourism perspective though?
No, they weren't. No, they weren't. They're not. These areas, Robbie, these hunting areas, this photo tourism, it doesn't work. It's just not viable. You don't have the
But
concentration.
the community wants it.
Yes, the community wants it apart. So here's the right thing. When I think all hunters will agree with me. Areas with dense population of game, where phototourism is viable, should be phototourism. Areas where phototourism is not viable, where there's not a big concentration of game. I mean, you drive for a couple hours without seeing anything. These areas are not viable for phototourism. These areas are hunting areas. So the part that's cut out and made phototourism an Enduimet, I completely understand why they did it. It borders the Kilimanjaro National Park. There's an abundance of wildlife there. There's water. The animals stay there. I understand. I mean, as a professional hunter, I wouldn't want to operate in an area like that. I wouldn't want to shoot the animals on that side of the concession. I wouldn't want to be part of it. No, not at all. That doesn't interest me.
Zidane, give me we talked about the money breakdown. Give me the money breakdown of Enduimet in terms of what are you paying? Do you have a block fee that you have to pay?
Yes. It's broken down. Yeah, it's broken down into bits and pieces here and there. But when you talk about the guaranteed money, so this contract was broken down. The WMA drafted this contract. They told us what they wanted to let us invest in this area. It amounted to just over $200,000. This is money I have to pay on a certain date. This is money that does not belong to Tanzania Wildlife Authority. This is money that goes directly to the communities. No
Is this
one but
annually?
the community.
Is that 200,000 annually?
Annually. The day we signed the contract, I think it was in March last year. Every time the contract expires, before we can go back into an area, before we can continue with our operations, you have to pay the lease directly into the community's bank account. This money doesn't go then to Tanzania Wildlife Authority or the Tanzanian government and then back to the community. No, this is a lease money that goes directly to the communities and they can do whatever they want with it. And this is
And
an
your
open
contract is on an annual
This is
basis?
on an annual basis, yes, on a 10-year contract. And this is a very public. Everyone in that community knows exactly what Kilombero North is paying to the communities. So when I say this is $200,000 is direct, this is money in cash we have to pay to the community. Then comes we have to take 5 kids to universities and we have to give them this and we have to give them bicycles and we have to dig boreholes and we have to dig dams and we have to do this. The contract amounts to more than $500,000 if you put into consideration, but I'll take the exact figure. This is money in cash we pay them because anyone can come up with a figure out of things. You could do a $30,000 project and call it 300,000, but we won't get into that. We'll say the amount of money we pay to the community is $200,000, just over $200,000 in cash.
Okay. Let's I want to know specifics on the other things.
Yeah.
What are the other things? You just went through them quite quickly.
Yeah.
What are the other things that you're doing?
All right. So we have to pay about. So this, I'm not putting this into account out of $200,000 we have to pay because
Correct. This is above and
this is the
beyond.
contract
This
they
is
have,
the
yeah.
other involved.
And then the Tanzanian regulations. Then there's a minimum block fee that's set by Tanzania Wildlife Authority. So Enduimet is a Category 2 block. So the minimum block fee for a block like that to the Tanzanian government and Tanzania Wildlife Authority is $30,000. This goes to Tanzania Wildlife Authority, then 75% of that, then it's transferred back to the community. And then we pay about another $5,000 to fund the anti-poaching. We pay another about $6,000 as Game Scout salaries. And then the contract, when they gave us the contract, they said we have to take 5 kids from the communities to recognize wildlife university in Tanzania. So last year we took about 5 kids and spent roughly about, this is 30 million shillings, that would equate to about $15,000. And then we had to dig about 2 boreholes a year. They will decide where those boreholes were going to be dug. We had to do like a dam every year. They were going to decide where that's going to be done. So we have to do this, but they'll tell us where it's done. They'll know the right areas to do this. Then we had to build about, I think, 3 classrooms. There's about 6 villages that surround Enduimet, 6 or 7 if I'm not mistaken. Then every year we have to build about 2 classrooms They'll decide what villages we have to we have to build the classes. And then something else on the contract was quite a lot. Then we had to fund again the anti-poaching by buying I think it was 2 motorcycles every year. And then for the duration of our contract, within the first 5 years, we had to give them a brand new Land Cruiser hardtop. Oh no, not the hardtop, a brand new Land Cruiser pickup to the WMA that belongs to them. And whatever investment that we put in the 10 years that we're there, anything that is permanent is not an asset to Kilombero North. So whatever permanent structures we build in that area belongs to the wildlife management area. So within a year, if they decide to then cancel our contract, all the investment put into that area belongs to the wildlife management area, not to Kilombero North Safaris. So
Okay.
they dictate what happens in their areas. We don't get to say anything. If you want to invest in those areas, they dictate what you can do.
Okay. Well, and I assume the ecotourism component is doing something very similar to what you're doing for the community. They structure a contract, they do anything. You say no?
No. No.
Why would the community not structure it the same way?
It's how it's structured across Africa, Robbie. The Tanzanian government, I won't fault them. This is how the phototourism operates around Africa. They don't want guarantees. There's no guarantees on phototourism. You pay a lease that's not more than what, $15,000-$20,000 a year, and that's about it. And then you pay bed nights, about $5, $6 per person that comes in the area that they call gate fees, or you call it bed nights or whatever it is. So if an operator comes in an area and doesn't do any business, and that's it, too bad for the community. Yeah.
The community can't write in guarantees like you have. You have to pay $200,000 every year into the community.
Yeah, but then the moment you start putting down those conditions, there's not a full investor that will come into your area. There's just not enough money generated from a business perspective to be able to fund such terms and conditions. So
Well, it's
yeah,
one of the reasons
on
why
one hand,
hunting
yeah, on one
happens in
hand,
these rural areas.
oh yeah, definitely.
All right.
So
So let's get
the regulations do not favor the communities or the governments in Africa with phototourism. Yeah.
well, and it's difficult, right? I can understand it's a volume business, unlike hunting, and
Yeah.
these marginal areas, arguably Enduimet could be considered marginal. Yes, Kilimanjaro is right there, but it's probably marginal in terms of people wanting to go to that destination to see something when you can just go somewhere else closer that's more guaranteed to see animals and whatnot.
And remember, Robbie, one thing about phototourism. Everyone that travels to Africa wants to see the big five. You have for an area to be viable, for an area for a photo operator to be able to market these areas, the aspect of the big five has to come into play. So we're talking about areas where you drive for a couple hours without seeing anything. No one's going to go into those areas. No, that's merely impossible. But then the challenge still comes, even if an area is densely populated with game, but you don't have any of the big five, or maybe you don't have three or half of the big five. It's still quite hard to convince people to come in your areas. Very hard.
But I could see the opportunity because of what's being hunted, that there's some very, very big elephants walking around that phototourism could, like the Amboseli system, could see and could photograph, and got Kilimanjaro as a backdrop there. I don't know if it works the same way as it does across the
Yeah,
border in terms of seeing the mountain, but
yeah. Which I completely agree with you. That's why the area was divided into two. We saw the potential, the community saw the potential, and they made the decision to make it have phototourism, have hunting.
Okay, so let's. We've set up Enduimet. I really wanted to talk about Enduimet so people could understand it, understand where it's at. A couple more just questions geographically, so that people understand. Enduimet, does Enduimet border the actual border? Does it hit up against the Kenyan Tanzanian border?
Yes, it does.
And does Amboseli hit the border? Does it touch the Tanzanian border?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. What is how much is it? What is it? 100 k's, 50 k's? What's the length between
I'd say,
Amboseli and the border?
conservatively, I would think about 20 to 30 k's from the Tanzanian border, maybe more.
Okay, I've never been on the ground,
Yeah,
and so I don't know what it looks like. I've just done my research, right? I know that Tanzania has adopted. They had a ban of hunting from 73 to 78,
yeah,
after which they adopted a consumptive use model. 43% of the land in Tanzania is conserved,
yes,
actively using a consumptive use model.
yes,
Kenya banned hunting in 1977, went completely to a non consumptive use model. They have 8% of their land that is conserved.
yeah.
Is Kenya and Tanzania roughly the same size? Again, I don't know in terms of like how big the countries are.
I think Tanzania is substantially bigger than Kenya. Yeah, I wouldn't go
Okay,
into the
okay.
exact figures of how big,
Um,
but it's substantially bigger.
okay, okay. But what does it look like, Zidane? Like, what does it look like on one side of the border versus the other? Is it very much the same? There's communities on the Kenyan side, communities on the Tanzanian side. What does it look like?
It's not good, Robbie. It's not good. Not good. I think Kenya has been they're fighting a battle they have lost. It's bad. I mean, people. I'm pretty sure people don't have the exact figures, and please don't. I don't want anyone to misquote what I'm about to say. I do not talk down on the conservation efforts done in Kenya. I do not talk down on the Kenyan government either. I mean, we completely understand the struggle they're going through and the different method of conservation they chose or the path of conservation they decided to take. It's not sustainable, Robbie. It's not sustainable. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Human wildlife conflict is over the roof. You put into account the amount of game they are losing or the amount of game they've lost since the ban of hunting in Kenya. I think roughly amounts to about 70% of their wildlife. 70%. 7-0. This is not a myth. This I mean everyone in Kenya would agree with me. I mean, could they have done something different? I think they could. Do I think they took the wrong path or the wrong method of conservation? I think they did. But I don't really know what to say. If you ask the Kenyan people, what do they benefit? It's a handful of people that benefit from the conservation or the value that the wildlife brings in Kenya. It's so much different to what Tanzania brings. The people have no say over their wildlife. The people have. I would go as far as saying the people have no say over their land. It's. I mean, talking Tanzania and Kenya, it's just an imaginary line between the two countries. So I see the Kenyan peoples, my brothers, what they're going through. Again, I would like to point out what President William Ruto has done over the last year is absolutely incredible. What he's done is he's given 50% for the first time in, I mean, almost half a century from the time hunting was banned in Kenya. President William Ruto has given instructions that 50% of all the revenues generated in these national parks should go back to the communities for the first time in, I
Wow.
mean, decades. Is what he has done, I think, if done correctly and if implemented, will change the course of Kenya and its conservation. For the first time, someone's seen the struggles that the people of Kenya are going through. And I'm sure if you get a chance to speak to anyone from Kenya, I mean, I'm not talking about all these NGOs, try speaking to the leaders of these communities and ask them what it meant for President William Ruto to give a part of this revenue being generated in these parks back to the communities. It brings value back to the people. They saw these animals as pests. They saw them. They saw these animals being given greater value than their lives. The retaliation killings were. I mean, last year alone, on an incident where one lion went into the communities and, I mean, killed 2 or 3 cattle. The community felt like they were not fully compensated. They went on a 2-month killing spree, speared 20 lions in 2 months. If that,
Yeah,
I
it's what
mean,
happens when there's no value given to wildlife, right? It's
yeah,
a common theme through Africa.
yeah. But it's a common theme through Africa. But when you start looking at the numbers, Robbie, what's being happening in Kenya, talking about just 8% of their land is preserved, having lost 70% of their wildlife. I mean, you put into consideration one incident like that, where within 2 months, 20 lions were killed. You're talking about cubs and lionesses and lions in their prime. I mean, I don't want to get misquoted about saying 20 lions, but people would attack you saying, "But that's one incident." I mean, look at the bigger picture. Look at what's been happening with their own reports. Kenya Wildlife Service is responsible of taking down an average of about 120 to 150 elephants a year. I mean, these numbers are absolutely incredible. There's elephants. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
I'm sure there's elephants died a cruel death. This is just Kenya Wildlife Services. You're not looking at the people retaliating, but imagine what these elephants had to go through. I mean, to put it into perspective, over the last 8 years, Robbie, Tanzania as a country have only hunted 40 elephants. 40 over the last 8 years. Ethically hunted 40 elephants. You're looking at stats that tell you Kenya Wildlife Service shoots about 120 to 150 elephants a year, compared to the 40 ethically, legally taken in Tanzania. I mean, where's the balance to this? How can someone not see this?
Yeah, I think that there's obviously questions to be had on that side on terms of like how many elephants, and I think that they have justifiably identified that poaching, human wildlife conflict, and now hunting is a threat to this elephant population in
Uh,
Amboseli.
Robbie,
But it's difficult to.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Robbie. You can't just identify. It's been identified. People know the result of human wildlife conflict. What have you done about identifying? You just can't come out and be like, yeah, we've identified. We know, the people of Africa know what the problem is. You just didn't come out and identify our problems. We know what our problems are. You just can't tell us you identify them. How do you take care of them? Yeah, I mean, the president of Kenya has taken a step, a big step. People don't really understand how big of a step is taken, but it's going to change the course of Kenya and its conservation. But I don't want to hear, yeah, that they've identified. We have identified these people. Our people have lived in these lands for centuries. They know what it is to live with these animals. They never speared them 60 years ago. They never speared them 100 years ago. They lived with them. They coexisted with these animals. There was never identification of human wildlife conflict a century ago. These people lived with the same animals, never put a spear on them. I
Mm-hmm,
mean, what are these people talking
mm-hmm,
about? We're not identifying new things happening. These things have been going on for centuries.
mm-hmm. So let's. I want to talk about. I want to get closer and closer to the hunt and all the questions that people have. And so, again, to set the scene, I wanted to understand from someone who is on the ground a lot. A professional hunter spends a lot of time walking areas, understanding areas, looking at wildlife, arguably, probably more than most. How many days a field do you think you spend, Zidane, in the field as a professional hunter? Not in Enduimet, but generally in Tanzania.
I think I spent a big part of my time. I would say it's more than I'm in and out of these areas throughout the year. There's no time I stop. From the time I've started doing this, I have not stopped. I mean, I'm in meetings. I'm doing anti-poaching. I am hunting. I am conserving. I mean, I've not stopped. It's been years. So I mean, I can't account for a certain time I've been doing this and a certain time I've had a break.
Would you say that you spend 200 days afield a year
I'd say,
in the
yeah,
bush?
I'd say we're over 200 days.
Okay. Let's talk about Enduimet and what you see in Enduimet on the ground. I'll ask some basic questions. Is Enduimet, does it have a lot of elephants?
Does it have a lot of elephants? Yes, I think yes, it does have a lot of elephant. Is it
Is
is
it
it seasonal
more
movement?
densely populated than other areas that you hunt in Tanzania
Yeah,
in
I think
terms
it
of
varies.
elephants?
Yeah, I would say it's in the top four of most populated elephant areas that I operate in.
Okay. How many elephants are on quota in the Enduimet area on an annual basis?
So all the animals in Tanzania except for two animals, uh, the elephant and the lions, is where an outfitter can apply for a certain amount of quota. But then
Okay.
the elephant numbers and the lion numbers are dictated by the government depending on that year's research and game count. So it's never it's been a constant. So the whole country, the whole of Tanzania gets a CITES quota of 50 elephants.
Okay.
So you ask for a permit. So I would ask for a permit in an area like Enduimet. So I mean, the Tanzanian government has done its research. It knows its population according to its areas. So depending on what they think the population is and what they think is sustainable in the area will be the amount of quota they give me. So on a year where they did a elephant count and they think there's a short of they could give me two this year and then they could give me one next year and they could give me three the following year and they could give me none the year after that. They can dictate what happens in those areas depending on their research. But all of the Tanzanian outfitters get to share a quota of 50 elephants.
Okay. No more.
I
And
cannot,
in
even in
from the government
Endumic,
perspective,
yeah, even in Endumic, even if there was a population of 10,000 elephants or 50,000 elephants, the government will not give me more than, I would say, a maximum. They will not give me more than three permits.
okay, that was my
Yeah,
next question. What the maximum quota would be, and you just
I
stated
would
three.
think three. Yeah, I would think three.
Zidane, a densely populated elephant that shares a border with Kenya in the Amboseli system. In your opinion, based on being on the ground a lot, is the elephant herd in Enduimet a completely Amboseli elephant herd, or is it a mixed herd between that and Tanzania?
Yeah. So this is a trans boundary population. Tanzania cannot call an elephant a Tanzanian elephant, and I think Kenya cannot call an elephant in Kenya Kenyan elephant. I think once that elephant crosses the border and steps foot into Tanzania, it's a Tanzanian elephant. If that elephant walks back, it's a Kenyan elephant. But there is a case of, I wouldn't say the whole population is transboundary. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's elephants that reside or would spend a big part of their lives in Kenya, but at some point would still walk into Tanzania. So I don't think you could group a certain number of elephants and call them these are Kenyan elephants that walk into Tanzania and we claim there's a certain amount of elephants that walk into Kenya. I think that's very wrong. we can't start this conversation by calling this elephant as property of either country.
So whose property is it then, Zidane? Is it the property of us, the world, the generation, the next generation, right? That we're
Yes,
securing
I would
for
say
them, for
that
the kids, for the grandkids?
it is the population, just like you said, the world's population, everyone's population. But I think it strongly falls under the people they surround. I mean, if someone from the community of Enduimet speaks out and says, "This is my elephant," he has more right than me calling it my elephant. His day-to-day life depends on that elephant's movement. They interact
Okay.
every single day. So it's the Kenyan people and the Tanzanian people that have more of a say over those elephants than anyone else.
Would you say the Kenyan people have the same right in terms of them
Yes,
speaking about those elephants?
yes,
Perfect.
I would say they do.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't get me wrong. When I say the Kenyan people, I mean the people of Kenya, the people that, and like I say, the people from Enduimet Wildlife Management Area. I refer to the people that are around the Amboseli that have the right, not anyone else that thinks they're doing a research or something that all of a sudden feels like they can speak before a government or speak on behalf of the people.
and you're not saying the same for yourself. You're not adding Kilombero or Zidane into the conversation with the people of Endumet.
I partly do because I mean I'm Tanzanian. I can speak. These are my people. I can relate to them. Yeah.
Zidane, you've hunted elephants a lot.
Yes.
You've done a lot of elephant hunting.
Yes.
Is the elephant hunting in here's one of the first big controversial questions that we've been hearing, I've been seeing,
Yeah.
that these elephants are habituated elephants that are used to people, they're used to vehicles, and it is like shooting goldfish in a bowl. That you can just walk up to these elephants. They understand people. They've lived, with people. I've seen videos of elephants being over water troughs and actually, visitors and tourists touching them.
Yeah.
Zidane, is that what is like hunting elephants in Endumet?
No, not even close. It's not even close to that. Listen, I do not disagree that there is habituated elephants. I do agree with that. I completely agree with that. There is habituated elephants. I think the
Have you
Amboseli,
seen an habituated elephant in Endumet?
have I seen?
Have you been
Uh,
close to one that you're like, oh shit, this is an elephant that's habituated versus an elephant that's not?
so I would disagree with that. My approach on any elephant as a professional hunter, I mean, I don't approach an elephant looking at it and asking myself, is this elephant habituated or not? I mean, I'm a professional hunter. Regardless of where that elephant, regardless of what part of the world that elephant comes from, you can walk, I mean, to a mere 5, 10 paces from an elephant, regardless if it's habituated or not. I mean, an elephant's vision's not that great, and if you get the wind right, regardless of the elephant being habituated or not, it's not like when you're hunting in Endumet, you can walk 10 paces away from an elephant, and if we hunt in our other areas in central Tanzania, you can't do the same. I mean, and the hunting it doesn't come down to taking of the elephant, or I mean it's the tracking of the elephant, it's finding of the elephant, it's the art of hunting. It comes down to walking close to an elephant regardless of it being habituated or not. It doesn't really, and to answer your question, do, do they have a different behavior? Yes, I mean a certain population of them do show different behavior from what we're used to in
What do you
different
mean
areas.
different behavior? What do you mean different behavior?
In the same ecosystem, in the same 600 square kilometers we hunt, you could drive past an elephant herd that's very calm. They would just keep grazing and they keep moving. You'd bump into another herd in Enduimet in the same 600 square kilometers, and the elephants would hear a car drive towards them at 100, 200 yards and just I mean, I wouldn't say take off. They'd start moving into thicker forest.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
they would
That
run
makes
for cover.
sense. That sounds like elephants that have been used to vehicles, have been used to sort of tourism being around them. Yep.
And I wouldn't say that either. I mean, we cover a lot of ground too. It's not like we go around and shoot all the elephants. We drive past the elephants. I mean, I could say I mean, our poaching vehicles drive around. I mean, we drive around as hunters. We don't shoot off herds. I mean, we drive past the same elephants. So it's not like ecotourism does better. If you come to our central Tanzanian areas, I could, when you talk about driving past elephants that are calm, I mean, all our hunting areas are like that. I mean, we don't put a lot of hunting pressure, and we'll come down to all the steps we take to make sure these elephants stay calm, and our hunting practices should align and should be ethical to maintain this behavior of these elephants.
Zidane, what is your personal ethos when it comes to hunting an elephant? And I'm asking this question from a standpoint of somebody who has no idea about elephant hunting, right? That's listening to you talk about it and thinks that, especially in this system, you just notioned, right? You're driving around, lots of driving around. Elephants are habituated vehicles. Oh, you bump into a big 100-pounder on the vehicle. He's 10 yards from the vehicle. The client goes, oh, I want to shoot that elephant. Can I shoot that elephant right now from the vehicle? I want to understand your ethos when it comes to elephant hunting.
Robbie, do you mind repeating the question again? I'm not sure what you're asking me.
I want to know, like, your ethics. I want to understand your ethics when it comes to elephant hunting.
Yeah. I think
So
people.
I'll people that have never heard of hear of elephant hunting, specifically in this area of habituated elephants driving around, they're used to vehicles, and you have a big elephant next to the vehicle. It's 10 yards away. It's not going to move away because it's habituated, right? And your client's in the back of the car and he goes, that's a 100-pounder. Let's shoot it right now. And you step off the vehicle and you shoot it.
I wouldn't,
Is that
Robbie.
something you would do?
Yeah, from is that something? It's something I've never done, and if it does happen, if I run into a situation like that, I think I would think people's what do I say? How do I put this? Elephant hunting is an art, Robbie. People should take out the thought that people come here to pull the trigger on an elephant. It's an art. I mean, there's a lot of hours put into the hunting. There's a lot of tracking. You don't just drive around. I mean, Tanzanian regulations. So you can't shoot an elephant. There's certain laws, and there's elephants that you can shoot. I think there's a restriction on weights. There's restriction on length of an elephant you can shoot. So you put into consideration the fact that it's people's perception is you drive around and shoot any elephant you feel like. There's laws that govern us. And going back to your question, would I shoot an elephant I see standing right next to the road? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. But then I'm just not sure how to ask this question because it's never happened, and I think if it does happen, I just wouldn't do it. I mean, not just as a professional hunter. I think my client that traveled all the way here wouldn't want a hunt like that. That doesn't. What they're trying to portray elephant hunting and what elephant hunting actually is two completely different things.
Okay, so then let's then get real then. Tell me about that first elephant that was killed in Enduimet. Tell me about that hunt.
I don't think it was killed. I think it was sustained. How do I call it? I wouldn't use the term killed. I think it was
It
sustainably
was hunted.
utilized. It was hunted.
It was
Yes.
hunted. It was hunted.
It was hunted. Yes. Robbie, that talking about. I mean, leading up to that hunt, I had two more hunts leading up to that hunt that I was unsuccessful. So that kills
What do
the
you mean?
myth. So
You had
most
two
of the
other
hunts I
elephant
do,
hunters before that hunt that was chasing an elephant, and both of them didn't kill.
yeah, they didn't.
How many days on each safari?
I would say 2 weeks. So I do most of my hunts. So I do most of my hunts are 21 to 28 days. I split them into two areas. That's a majority of my hunts. 90% of my hunts are longer hunts where we hunt in 2 or 3
Okay,
different areas. So yeah, we started
2 or 3
off in
different
Masai.
areas in Enduimet.
No. I would do a hunt in Masai land, and on the same safari with my client would travel to a different destination.
Okay. Just to make sure that everyone's clear here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, I mean 28 days. I wasn't successful. I think on the first
But
safari,
28 days. Hold on. I want to
we
make sure. I want to be clear. I want to be crystal clear here. Crystal clear here. 28 days in Enduimet elephant hunting.
yes, a total of I failed. I failed for 28 days. I failed. Not that I didn't see elephants. I saw a lot of elephants that were not legal to shoot, and this is going to be controversial. Okay, this is going to be very controversial. On the first hunt I did, this is July of last year. I'm hunting. So the regulations that govern me say that I cannot shoot an elephant. The regulations that it so if I shoot an elephant within 1.1 kilometers from the Kenyan border, I can legally shoot an elephant 1.1 kilometers from the Kenyan border, very legally.
Okay.
On my first hunt, we saw a beautiful elephant, Robbie. We were out. We were on a viewpoint. I mean, on a hill, looking for lesser kudu. I saw this magnificent elephant. I'm not saying it was. It was about, I'd say, 10 kilometers from the Kenyan border. It was a magnificent elephant, and I mean, I've done enough research. I know most of the big elephants that are roaming between Kenya and Tanzania, and the elephants in Tanzania. But I can tell you, there's a lot of elephants that people have not laid their eyes on. These are elephants that are coming from Mount Meru and Arusha and Kilimanjaro. But the question that me and my client asked each other is do you think it's the right thing to do to shoot this elephant? Let's say it was 10 kilometers away from the Kenyan border. We didn't give it a second thought. We just looked at the elephant like any other animal we're looking at, and we laughed and we kept on hunting. Would it have
And the
been
reason you didn't go after him was just because of
no?
distance?
Yeah, I would say distance and in my feeling, Robbie, in my feeling, I appreciate the conservation work done in Kenya. Although I disagree by the form of conservation and what they're doing, there's still the people that are in Kenya and the NGOs and the people working there, we respect the conservation they've done. It wouldn't sit right with me or the client I'm with. I could, like any other elephant I have guided, I could have taken that elephant and nothing would have happened. I would have legally hunted that elephant within Tanzanian boundaries and the Tanzanian regulations, but it didn't sit right with me. I'm ethical. My client's ethical. I have videos and proof of us standing 15 paces from that elephant. I mean, that's the next day. We then walk back into the same area looking for lesser kudu. We see the elephant. We decide to go have a look at it. It is, I mean, it's
Do
hard
you
to
did you
describe.
feel like did you feel that elephant was potentially an iconic elephant because of how close it was to Kenya, and that's why you said no?
No, I wouldn't say it was an icon. I did not refrain myself because I thought it was an iconic elephant. It just didn't. For some reason, being that close to an international boundary and seeing that we have two different methods of conservation, to me, it didn't feel right, Robbie. It didn't feel right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
And
failed for 28 days,
yes,
and then you have your third client come in.
yes. But so the elephant that I guided later in the year, this happened by chance. Uh, I am very good friends with the outfitter that runs the concession next to me. We used to have that concession, and when it came up for tender, they called us and told us we were interested. They were interested in investing in the area, and they were willing to put a lot more money. And we came into a gentleman's agreement, and they took over the area. So I was visiting and just driving around this area. Uh, I actually saw that elephant. I saw it in July, the same elephant that then later I bumped into in my concession. So I
Okay.
was, as I was saying, Robbie, the elephant behavior changes. I mean, there's a lot of protected land in Enduimet, a lot of big forests. I mean, a lot of swamps. An elephant could be in Enduimet for years that no one could set their eyes on. It's still pristine land that's conserved for many years. So yeah, then there's elephants. I mean, especially the older elephants. I don't want to say big elephants. The older elephants almost turn nocturnal, and their movement is very limited. They come out late afternoons and go back into the thick forest. I think yeah, I'd say that for 3 hours of tracking. I think within 3 hours we did bump the bull once. I think it did get our wind. We never got a chance to see it, but judging from the tracks, I could see that it taken off. I think it probably got our wind and it taken off. So yeah, I think that was the second
Did
time
it
getting
did
close
you
to
did
it.
it feel like to you it was an elephant that was habituated?
No, no, an habituated elephant does not pick up your wind before you see it and just take off.
Okay. Okay.
It did not. So like no, and I think Rob, it's very dangerous for these people to keep saying habituated elephants. I think out of a population of, they say they have a population of 2,000. We say we have a population of 2,000 on the other side. In a population of 4,000 elephants, I think saying these elephants are habituated is very dangerous. I think there's a
Hmm.
handful of this I would call iconic bulls that people, hundreds
Yep.
and thousands of cars drive looking for, that I would
Yeah.
agree that are habituated. The rest of the elephants are quite wild. I mean, when I say we drive past them with cars, they still give you the same attention. They still look for your wind. I mean, they act as like any other wild elephant. So there's a very handful of elephants that are habituated. You're talking about Craig and One Ton and Vronsky and all those elephants. I mean, it's a handful of elephants that you could call habituated. The rest of the elephants are very wild. So yeah, going back to the hunt, I mean, yeah, having bumped the bull once, we managed to get up to it. I mean, the wind was perfect. I looked at the elephant to make sure there was no collars from. I mean, it was not a researched elephant. I was confident. And then here's the other thing: this elephant didn't have sweeping tusks. Like they describe these elephants as having long ivory almost touching the ground. Just because it broke the 100 pound mark, being 100 and 110 pounds, doesn't necessarily make the elephant. Doesn't mean the elephant had long ivory that's almost touching the ground. There's a lot that comes into the weight of an elephant tusks. I think when you talk about 100 pounders, a lot of people that were fortunate enough to hunt them would tell you my first impression was this elephant was not 100 pounds. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I stood there looking at the elephant, my initial call was not that it mattered, but you just don't get there. We spent, I would say, a couple minutes with the elephant when we got close up just to examine it and see what the elephant was all about. My initial impression looking at the elephant was it was in high 80s, early 90s. I mean, giving you the
Zidane,
exact
what
name.
when you looked at that elephant, what made you say that it was old enough? That was another big question. Like that you're not taking elephants that are old enough.
Yeah. I mean, an elephant from a professional hunter's perspective, an elephant's characteristics would easily tell you the difference between a young elephant and an old elephant. I mean, you look at a lot of things. Having spent time with a lot of elephants, I can confidently tell you off the bat, from elephant's behavior, from an elephant's posture, from, the scars it carries, a stain on the ivory, what the ivory looks like, from its body condition to the wrinkles on the ears. We could go into details here, but not like the Kenyan researchers claim that most of the professional hunters cannot guide, cannot estimate an elephant's age. An elephant's age is not estimated by the ivory it's carrying. There's a lot of things that come into play when you're judging an elephant's age. So I think I was very confident that that elephant was old enough to be taken. I told my client what I thought about the elephant. He was okay with taking the elephant. He went ahead and took the elephant. Yeah, it was no different to any other hunt we conduct anywhere else.
So,
During this,
Zidane, one of the things,
yeah, one of the things.
that that they talk about. Obviously, you can't. You don't have the ability to know when that elephant was born, whether or not they've it has been put out there that this elephant was Gilgil, right? This elephant that was pictured. I think the picture I saw was when it was 24 years old back in 2016. Nobody had. I don't think we've seen an updated picture of this elephant since 2016. Ambassador Trust for Elephants put out this press
Why?
statement.
Why? There's elephants in that ecosystem.
Yeah, I don't know why.
The most photographed elephants in the world. You have 100-pounder missing, and you don't have a recent picture of the last 6-7 years of the same elephant you claim was shot in Tanzania. I think that's the first question I asked.
It certainly speaks to. It certainly speaks to an elephant like Gilgil, who was identified in the Kenyan system and has moved south, and is now spending 90% of its time in Tanzania, and not being seen any longer for some reason, right? Habitat or human-wildlife conflict or whatever.
Yeah. So Robbie, from your understanding, they used a picture from, you say, 2017 of that elephant to match the elephant I guided.
2016, 2017, I think, is what they matched the wrinkles, right?
They matched the wrinkles. What, Robbie? If they could, I'm not denying that the elephant hunting is here to stay. That's our method of conservation. I know we haven't discussed about this, but this is not something that's going to recur where these people are going to start this propaganda and misinformation, and we're going to back off and say, oh, we're going to stop the elephant hunting. The elephant hunting is here to stay. So do I disagree that it will come a time where an elephant might be shot in Tanzania that is one of the elephants that's known in Kenya? I'm not saying the iconic elephants. No one in their right mind would ever even consider shooting any of those elephants. Any pure conservationist will not, in his mind, ever consider shooting those iconic elephants. I'm talking about all the other elephants they've done research on. We cannot run away from the fact that there is a slight chance that in the coming years, someone might. These elephants roam for hundreds of kilometers. That elephant could not be shot in Enduimet. It could be shot in southern Masailand, where it's been proved these elephants, get to southern Masailand. This is hundreds of kilometers away. But when it comes to time, when you're addressing the public on such a sensitive issue, where you know there's a lot of misinformation going on, whoever did this research and came up to the conclusion that this elephant had a name, they said it was Gilgil, then make sure when you put out that information to the public, or I'm also the public, I could have done a mistake not knowing that this elephant was known or was part of a family in Kenya. Then when you put out the information, please give us more details. You use the wrinkles on the elephant pictures you have that I guided, and you use the pictures, the last pictures you have of this elephant, put it out to the public, and show us how you matched the identity of this elephant. I mean,
Zidane, based on what you sent me, and you've sent me a couple of things that I'm not allowed to keep. You've done the
yeah,
whole like WhatsApp. Here it is. You're not allowed to see this anymore. Picture. Oh, were there any characteristics on that elephant that would have been? Sorry, let me back up. The picture I saw very quickly was that that first elephant had a very distinctive toenail growth pattern.
yes,
Wouldn't that have been expressed? Wouldn't that have been one of the things that just like immediately identified? And if I'm correct me here if I'm wrong, because I've been looking at everything, right? I've been following all the photographic guys. I've been looking at all these posts. I think there was a guy, Silverstroni, maybe his Instagram post. He's a photographer in Kenya, and he said that there's this bull that showed up from just out of the blue, X004, if I remember
yes,
correctly. But its toes looked exactly very close to the toes that you, very close to the elephant toes, right? Weren't they?
yeah.
Am I missing something here?
No, Rob, you're not missing. You're not missing out on a lot. But I think that came after guiding the elephant, after careful examination. I mean, first, like I said, elephant hunting and the way it's portrayed to people is completely different. I mean, it's portrayed as this guy's going up to habituated elephants, getting off the truck, shooting an elephant, and the Texan hunter lives with his ivory where he can go have bragging stories. I mean, the first question would be, why are they telling our stories? We don't go around these stories. Why are they speaking on behalf of us? They're portraying a picture that's not right. So yeah, going back to your question, I mean, after we shoot an elephant, there's a lot that goes on. I mean, I would say I spend about 2 days with an elephant carcass. From the time the elephant is on the ground to the time we're done with an elephant that I guided, I spent about a minimum of 2 days with the elephant.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk about that right now because that's the other controversy around elephant number one
Yeah.
is that if you did spend that much time, it sounds like, based on everything I've heard, is that you burnt the entire carcass.
Uh,
Did you?
no, I didn't. But
You didn't burn the entire carcass.
did not burn the entire carcass. But Robbie, here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. I have nothing to hide, and I'm not against the practice of burning a carcass either. I mean, if I had done it, I
Why,
would openly say I did it.
why are you not
And
against the practice?
why am I not against the practice? So I'm going to answer this question.
Okay.
It all depends on the area you operate. If I'm operating in central Tanzania in areas like Ruaga, Lunda, Kinengesi, that there's a lot of elephants there, and these are wildlife management areas. I think we are the leading company in Tanzania that has invested more money and resources into WMAs than any other company in Tanzania. If I guide an elephant in Western Tanzania, let's say in those parts of my concessions where it is a culture for the people there to eat game meat, the moment that elephant hits the ground, the number one thing I do is I call my manager to call the villages. They take turns. We're surrounded by 4 villages. They take turns. So each village gets an opportunity to take the whole elephant carcass, and it happens. The more. If I keep hunting, if I shoot the second village gets opportunity. That elephant, I say, the company standards is from the time it hits the ground to the time it's supposed to be out of that area, it should be a minimum of 6 to 7 hours. So we call the people, they take the carcass, cut it up into pieces, we get our pictures, we stay with, what do you call it, our trophy, they take the meat, Perfectly done. It's a different case in Maasai
Okay.
land. Okay? It's completely different. You're talking about these are Maasai people, let alone an elephant. They don't consume game meat at all. No one in Enduimet consumes game meat. No one in my neighboring concession consumes game meat. What is expected of me to do with the elephant?
Is this, let me put a suggestion out.
Yeah.
And I know this would be way above and beyond what you would be expected to do. Could you dry all that elephant meat and then move it into a place in Tanzania that they would readily accept it?
Yes. Very. If it is an option out there that's been discussed. I mean, we discussed about. It's not something we just do and then what do we do about it? This was discussed before the first elephant permit, before Kilombero North took the decision to ask for the first elephant permit. We went through all this. What is the right thing to do? That's the number one thing you do as an operator. I mean, I'm sorry, Robbie. I'm just gonna take a minute. I'm looking for. I have pieces of paper laying around my table here. I just want to get this article and read it to you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Take your time. But can you see, whilst you're looking for that piece of paper, could you not, in my brain,
Yeah.
we want to be above reproach, right? When it comes to elephant hunting. And one of the things is going above and beyond what we are supposed to do. So potentially drying elephant meat and moving it, trucking it somewhere else that a community actually benefits from it. Shit, how good would that be?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, going as far as taking the time to cut this meat up and dry it. I don't want to sound arrogant, Robbie. For everyone, my fellow African operators that are listening to this, don't take offense. And I'm not saying I do the same thing. If I had to do it in Western Tanzania, where I mean, let's say a circumstance where the elephant was so far, if I had to do that, I would do that. But our people not starving, Robbie. My community makes about roughly from trophy fees and the money we pay them $400,000. So I think me taking the time to dry up the meat for them, cutting it up and drying it and putting it in a car, I will give you the reason why I will not take it outside the communities that surround me. I'm looking for the article. I'll read it to you if I get it. But I'm talking about this is Enduimet as Enduimet. These people make
Okay.
$400,000. They are very proud people. These are Maasais. They consider
Mm-hmm.
themselves to be very wealthy, and their
Mm-hmm.
relationship with elephants is not very good. I mean, there's not a
Mm-hmm.
Maasai
Mm-hmm.
community you will touch that have not lost a close person to them to elephants. I'm not going to be the first person that's going to take an elephant carcass to a group of people that it is not in their tradition to eat this game meat and then offer them the elephant. I think that would be very disrespectful, very disrespectful. And the second thing is we take pride in what we do. I think our people are not too starved to start fighting over an elephant carcass. I know it's the right thing to do. I know, Rob, it's the right thing to do. But remember, we're shooting a lot more animals. I mean, if my community was in demand of game meat, I have more good animals, more good cuts to give them than an elephant. Different communities, some communities like when you're talking about the people of Iringa, they love the elephant meat, absolutely love it. But don't they have enough? Not for me to cut up an elephant in Masai land and transfer it all the way to Western Tanzania. I mean, our people in Tanzania are not that deprived of protein.
Sure,
I
sure,
think
sure.
the best
Oh, it
thing
was
to
just an
do.
idea.
Yeah, the best thing to do for the area at the time, not to disrupt the elephants that are already existing in that area, the elephant herds, is to take care of that carcass as soon as possible.
Okay, so what is that? So if you didn't burn it, what did you do? Well,
We
not burn
bury
it
it.
entirely. Is that what you
Yeah,
said? You didn't burn
Yeah,
it
we know.
entirely. Did you burn a part of it?
There was a fire started at where the elephant was shot. Like I told you, where we shot the elephant, there was lava rocks. I mean, it wasn't an area you could go and put an excavator to dig a hole. So what we had to do at the time, again, we have to take care of this as soon as possible, not to disrupt the other elephants in the area. They share the same ground. What we did was it was cut up into pieces, loaded in one of our trucks, moved into a place where one of our excavators was on standby, and he was buried. The remains that were left, the blood, the scent, or the guts of the elephant. Uh, it's common practice for us to then pick up the soil, anything that we feel like is on the ground that could potentially carry the scent of the elephant or the scent of a dead elephant. It's piled together with firewood, and a fire is started to kill any scent left behind. So
Now let me. So the picture that I briefly saw, did
yeah,
you start that fire right there next to the elephant carcass, or you
no,
right
that
there,
was
right?
like I said, I take 2 days. So we worked overnight that night to make sure that elephant was taken away and buried, and then we went back to the area to make sure. I supervised all this. It's my responsibility as a professional hunter. We started the fire way after the elephant was taken out of there, and those pictures
Sure,
were
but it
taken.
was right. Was it?
It was right at
Was
the
the
place where
picture? Was the fire started right there where the elephant dropped?
yes.
If I remember correctly, the picture where the elephant dropped was super rocky,
Uh,
or not? Or
say that again.
was that a figment of my imagination?
No. This it was rocky, but I mean it's not like the whole place there is rocky. That's why I say that you will see a pile of sand, and you will see exactly from the picture. I can share more pictures with you. Look at the picture you saw carefully. You will see that that sand was dug out. You could see from the picture where the sand was. So that's the reason why we dug out the sand and not the rocks or anything, and it was burnt. And within the pile of sand that's there includes rocks. That's why you see a bigger pile of sand than usual.
And so, is that? Do you think that picture is the picture that you shared with me briefly? That picture is the picture that led to this idea that you burnt the entire carcass,
Yes,
whereas you buried the carcass.
yes, but I think I mean when you talk about the information that Kenya had, they had very accurate details. This is
How did
details.
they have
So
accurate
remember,
details? But you were the one on, you were on the ground. Why did you not?
how is it?
Let me
It's
ask
not
two
details.
questions. Two
Listen,
questions. How did
yeah,
how did
yeah.
they not have details? How did they have all the details? Let me ask this question. Two, how did they have all the details? And two, why didn't you release the details?
No one asked for the details. No one reached out to me. You can speak to all of them. No one reached out to me and asked for any details. I am willing, Robbie. Not on the first elephant. I guided 2 of the 3 elephants shot there. I'm willing. Anyone from Kenya that wants to sit down from a conservation standpoint. I mean, come to me from a conservation standpoint. Don't come with me with your propaganda. Tell me that you're interested to know more about the Elephants Guided. It's going to help with your research in Kenya. It's going to help with the elephant population there. I have nothing to hide, Robbie. It's not like we're doing anything like one of the reports claiming that we're operating in, what did they say? We're operating in stealth or something like that. Uh, they asked for details from the wildlife management area. The wildlife management area had nothing to hide. They gave them the exact distance which they lied about. They gave them the exact distance of where that elephant was shot from the Kenyan border. They gave them the exact measurements of the elephants, the exact weight of the elephants. The professional hunter that conducted the hunt, they have my name. They're putting it. No one's ever reached out and asked anything, Robbie, from for a scientific purpose or for any purpose. No one's ever reached out. I mean, yeah, we've had people reach out that are these are investigative journalists. why would I respond to why would I give such details to an investigative journalist? I'm here to speaking to you today and not hiding the fact that I am the professional hunter that guided the two elephants, and I will be the professional hunter that's going to keep guiding those elephants. So if anyone has any question, they can reach out to me and I'll give them the knowledge I have.
Let me ask. I think we've debunked a couple of the things, but I want to ask some sort of tougher questions now. Okay. I think number one is age, and I think it seems like when I look at photos of, I got sent a photo and I sent it to you earlier today, of an elephant, and it was challenged of me to say, how old do you think this elephant is? And when I looked at the elephant, it didn't have weight all the way through the tusk. I'm not an elephant aging expert by no means, right? I don't spend nearly as much time as you do in the bush. I don't know anything about elephants. All I know is the elephants I saw in Kruger, and this is what I responded to this person about. I said, it doesn't hold weight through the tusks to me. It doesn't have the orbital sockets that are recessed in it. So I said that elephant was, 35 to 40. What did you think that elephant aged at?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to put into consideration, Robbie, when you're aging an elephant. Someone could send you a picture of an elephant. I've hunted in Tanzania alone. I've hunted about four to five different ecosystems. I've guided elephants. Last year, I shot an elephant in an ecosystem that I'm not talking about Enduimet. I'm talking about a different ecosystem. I shot the first elephant guided there in about a decade. So I can speak with confidence. There's certain characteristics of an elephant that do not change regardless of where they came from. But elephants vary from body size to the weight tusks of the weight of the tusks to there is a lot of different aspects. You look at the elephants that were guided in the Selous or hunted in the Selous. You put that into comparison. An elephant in northern Masai land of Tanzania would carry almost double the body size an elephant in the Selous carries. So when judging an elephant, depending on the ecosystem you're hunting, you put into consideration a lot of things. The elephant's body size, you talk about what you just mentioned right now and what I mentioned before. But I mean, the picture you shared with me, looking at it very quickly, that's a young elephant. I wouldn't even class it in the 35-year range. I think I've seen a couple elephants in Enduimet. I've seen them in Ngorongoro. I've seen them further in southern Masai land. Young elephants with incredible potential. Incredible
Have
potential.
you seen? Let me ask this question. Have you seen Esau, that elephant that got collared, that I
Yes.
saw on the Ambassador Trust? Yeah. You've seen him?
Yes. With a client.
Like, you saw him whilst you were hunting?
Yes. It would be a
Why
crime.
didn't you shoot him?
It would be a crime, Robbie. A crime if anyone shot that elephant. I think.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that is a crime to shoot that elephant?
I think that elephant. Number one, that elephant's it's a young bull. It carries incredible genetics. Incredible genetics. I think for anyone to even consider looking at that bull from a hunter's perspective, I think we. Oh. Robbie, give me a second. I'll be right back.
You okay?
Yeah, I just need a quick second. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I had to grab my charger quick. Yeah.
You're about to run out of battery?
Yeah, I think it would be a crime to shoot that bull. It's a young bull carrying incredible genetics. I think it's leading up to its prime age. I think as a professional hunter, having looked at that elephant, having discussed numerous professional hunters on what they thought. I think I'd give that elephant another 15, 20 years.
Zidane, would you go on record right now and say that you, as a professional hunter, are interested in killing the oldest bulls you possibly can kill?
Very confidently. Very confidently.
So when you are approaching an elephant, regardless of elephant tusk size, you're going to say, and this makes sense from a hunting perspective. If a bull is 40, say, imagine what that bull would be like at 50. If that bull is 40 at a 80 pound, 90 pound, imagine what it's like at 50. It's probably 140, 150 pounder. So you are, I think that's one of the things that they're worried about, Zidane.
Yeah.
And when I say they, the photographics, the researchers, that these bulls are not allowed to express the genetic potential that they have because they're going to be taken early as a young bull.
I think that's been, I would say that's been the biggest argument. If you leave the iconic part of these elephants they reckon the iconic elephants are being targeted. There's just 10 left. The second debate would be hunting these elephants where they feel like, and they've said it before, that professional hunters cannot judge the age of these elephants. I mean, Robbie,
You are looking to hunt the oldest elephant you possibly can.
yes, but I'll grab this. I'll grab this piece of paper here. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, Robbie. I want to read something to you. This is according to the Mbuseli research, the average lifespan of elephants. And now this is the most researched elephants in Africa. This is according to their research. The average lifespan of elephant bulls who die of natural causes in that ecosystem is 42 years of age. This is Moss 2001 and Lee 2016. So they according to their research, these bulls only live to 42 years of age and die of natural causes. So the conversation we're having, like I said before, when you're talking about elephants, the elephants in Botswana and different parts of Africa, they reckon live up to 65. And I mean, elephants should be shot.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen an elephant. I don't think I've ever seen an elephant 65 plus. In Kruger, they don't even get, they rarely get over 50 in Kruger.
I mean, you talk about 55, 60 years, but then the research here tells you you're looking at elephants that live only to 42. I mean, what then happens? If what's then in that ecosystem if knowing and having scientific information that this bulls only live to 42 years of age? What are the right elephants to take? I'm not saying we should shoot young bulls. I'm saying we should target what we feel are old bulls. What you can tell is an old bull. The bull I shot, I shared pictures with you. I put it in the 42 to 45 years.
And that's interesting, 42 to 45. It's interesting when you put that science forward, right? The science from the Amboseli Trust for Elephants. I'd be interested to know what the science says this, now. Yeah, it's very interesting. I actually hadn't looked at that science, and I'll look it up after this podcast. If the average age based on science of the Amboseli Trust elephants is 42 to 43, obviously your 50 plus aged elephants that I'm assuming like a Craig and whatnot is. And again, I wonder if, this is just me hypothesizing, right? I wonder if, because what I've gotten to know a little bit more about the Kenyan side is that the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust and the Kenya Wildlife Services have these veterinary teams that go out and treat animals all the time, specifically elephants. I wonder if that is skewing average ages of elephants from a natural perspective, right? Those papers seem to indicate, as you just articulated, I haven't read them yet, average age of natural cause death of elephants 42, 43. If someone's going in and anesthetizing elephants and treating wounds and whatnot that potentially would have caused them to die, is that artificially inflating the average age of an elephant in terms of how long it lives? I don't know. I'm just, running around in my brain this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing I stand on, Robbie. When you're a professional hunter, you cannot answer scientific questions, and I think people behind the science shouldn't be answering professional hunter questions, or I think everyone should stick to what they know. Yeah, I believe.
So go ahead.
Yeah,
You believe?
I believe going into a hunt as a professional hunter, I am out there looking for the oldest bull. That's my number one priority, is looking for the oldest bull. Everything else comes later. Your science, your feelings, your emotions. I'm given a task. I look at the task that I am given. I look for the oldest elephant. Like I told you before, I saw a sow, and it's not just a sow. I mean, there's
How many
more
big bulls have
elephants.
you seen? Let me say that. Let me ask this question. How many big bulls have you seen in Enduimet?
Uh, a handful of elephants.
More than 10?
Yeah, I would say more than 10.
More than 20?
No, I wouldn't go as far. Remember, I've only been in Enduimet. This is the second year, so I've only done one season there, one full season.
But you've seen 10 big bulls that people would consider, dare I say, big bulls, iconic, super tuskers, mega tuskers. My camera crew is joking. They're like, the next thing they're going to call them is giga tuskers.
Gigatuskers, yeah. Man, Robbie, I think this scandal that's been going on. I mean, they've turned this elephants into money printing machines. It's I don't want to get into details. I don't want to speak down on people, but man, it's it's
There
ridiculous.
is a
Really,
business.
they've turned these elephants into a business.
Okay.
I honestly
But
think.
elephant hunting is a business too.
No, I wouldn't necessarily. In what perspective? Who does it benefit?
It benefits you. It benefits the operator.
Well, yeah, it
You
benefits
hunt
me. But
elephants because
remember, when I get into the picture, uh, out of my pocket, I'm missing over $200,000. So remember that the business I do with the community. It's not for me, and we don't put a bigger priority to a certain group of animals more than the others. We're conservationists. We look after the whole population. It's not like we're going to set aside a certain amount of animals that are more valuable than anything else. That's where I have the problems, where people are going around on behalf of Kenya and the Kenyan people and the Kenyan wildlife, begging for money to look after these animals. When they go to those countries, those animals were just fine, completely fine. Those people knew how to look after them. You started drawing boundaries. You started dictating what these people could do. You started. These people feel like there's all this money being generated. Okay, there's a sense people still have. People still feel like these animals belong to them, but a certain group of people came over, and now they're making all this money using the same wildlife, and they're not seeing any of it. What's why should they keep looking after these animals?
hmm hmm Zidane, let me ask this question, and it's probably the most hard hitting question of this podcast that I think people have been thinking about. and really straightforward. Okay, and I'm gonna ask the question. You can say yes or no. Okay. If Craig walked across from Kenya to Tanzania tomorrow, you supposedly, based on the news, and we'll talk about it right now. Also, you're about to do another hunt in Enduimet. Would you shoot Craig?
No, no one in their right mind would do that. No,
Would you shoot
mm,
any of the collared bulls that Amboseli Trust Elephant has?
no, I wouldn't shoot anything that's collared, not just an elephant. Anything that's collared, there's scientific research being done. It's to the benefit of conservation, not to my benefit, not to their benefit. It's for the benefit of the future generation. Why would I shoot anything that's collared? That's the first question. The second thing comes why. I mean, we understand the value these elephants they call iconic or super tuskers bring. The hunting side, it's all about the value these animals bring into these areas and the communities. They have proved, and everyone knows the amount of value this handful of elephants bring into that ecosystem. Not just to the Kenyan side, to Africa in general, Tanzania. I mean, they have incredible value, not just to the Kenyans, not just to the researchers, not just to the hunters. They have value. I mean, they hold greater value than we can all imagine. So I think they are out of boundaries. And if anyone had a doubt in their mind about the safety of these elephants, first of all, the safety of these elephants towards the operators, we will not touch these elephants. I can give you my word. And it's not like we haven't had the opportunity to. Like I told you before, I've seen a big elephant, I've seen bigger elephants that I thought I had a glimpse of them that I thought, okay, I think I might be able to identify this elephant. It's happened before, and we've stayed away from. And the other thing, the second thing we come to, Robbie, these elephants are much safer in Tanzania than they are in Kenya. There's no argument about that. Regardless of where they go into a hunting area, national park, anywhere, they are 100 times safer. Talking about a sow, like I told you before they darted or tranquilized that bull to collar him, he was in Tanzania. We're talking about a trans-boundary population. And I can go as far as saying they've just collared this bull. Three years from now, let them release the data they obtained from that elephant. That elephant will spend more time in Tanzania than it does in Kenya. But it doesn't bother me. Like I said before, it's a trans-boundary population. Collar any elephants, even an elephant from the Ngorongoro that walks into Kenya. If you're collaring it for scientific research, go ahead and collar it. It doesn't make a difference. We're all doing this for conservation. But for these people to then go out and release such a reputable NGO, and these people look up to them, they have a massive following, saying that then putting a collar on a sow saves them from the hunters in Tanzania from shooting it. What are you trying to portray to the people? When that elephant was in Tanzania, it was in good shape. It was in a herd of cows. That bull was with cows in Tanzania the moment it crossed the Kenyan border. I need all of them to come together and explain to me. They say the wounds on a sow are from fighting with another bull. I need these people with all the science they have, with all the research they have. Please explain to me how an elephant bull can put its tusk in another elephant's trunk and pierce it. I mean, there's levels to the
Good
amount
question.
of misinformation you can spread out there. This is getting beyond. I mean, I don't understand what they're trying to do. You first you claim this elephant was wounded by another bull. You know very well, and all the vets know very well that bull was speared the moment it crossed the border. Admit to the fact that you have challenges facing your conservation, and then admit that you're collaring this bull for research. But don't try raising money off the backs of hunters. Why? Why do you have to misinform the public?
I think, Zidane, that there's, and I think you've alluded to this in many different places here in this podcast, but I want to put a fine point on it.
Yeah.
You are very much in agreement that there are elephants that are iconic, that generate a lot of money for Kenyan national parks, that are the elephants that are constantly photographed. Yes?
Yes.
You are also very much never going to hunt those elephants.
Never.
Never.
It would be a crime, Robbie.
If it would be a crime, you said that already. Because I think it would be a crime, Zidane. And here's the gravity of the situation. And I think it's important for me to explain to you the gravity. And I think you know the gravity of it. You enjoy elephant hunting. You believe in the conservation model, as I do, across Africa. This issue, this area, has a firestorm brewing around it. It's a slow trickle right now. It's but it has the potential, if got enough legs underneath it, with the wrong circumstance happening, for it potentially to harm elephant hunting across Africa. Not just your elephant hunting, but across Africa. So there's an incredible weight, an incredible responsibility on someone like you to do the right thing always.
Yeah. I agree with that completely, but Robbie,
Is there a but? Is there a but?
is there a
There
but? Yes,
isn't.
there is. Well, there is a but into that. I mean, so what you're trying to tell me is, I'm going to tell you, without elephant hunting in northern Maasai land, listen to this very carefully, Robbie. Without elephant hunting in northern Maasai land, without the people of northern Maasai land knowing this, their problem is the elephants. Without them knowing these elephants are being taken care of, we're gonna have a big problem. So the question, so I'm gonna ask you the same question. So we would all rather refrain from preserving these elephants in the right way. So we're all gonna say, because we're scared something's gonna happen in the wrong circumstances, let's then stop doing what we think is right and then let nature take its course and let the human wildlife conflict hit the roof and then come back again 10 years from now when we are 2,000 elephants short in northern Maasai land, and me and you discuss the same topic that Zidane, the right call 10 years ago was to hunt these elephants. Because I have seen dead elephants in our areas. Yes, not the same numbers being shown from Kenyan side. We know these are not hidden facts. They use the same numbers to ask for money. These are numbers anyone can go on their phone and search and see. We're losing. I mean, the amount of elephants also. Let me give you. This is gonna. I'm not sure if I told you this before. Yeah, I did tell you this before. I'm gonna say it again. Legally hunted elephants over the last 8 years in Tanzania. The number of legally hunted elephants in Tanzania. Let's not talk about that one ecosystem.
40.
Legal 40. We're talking about a number that's being recorded on the Kenyan side. This is so the hunting is very accurate, and you're going to go back on these records where Kenya Wildlife Service. You could add a couple more, maybe take off or add, but I mean taking off that number, it has to be very accurate to be published. You're looking at 120 to 150. This is by one organization. And then you're still not accounting the human. I mean, how many big tuskers have we lost over the years? How many elephants have been hunted in Kenya? I mean, I'm not going to use the word. We're categorizing the crisis going on and trying to make it sound like it's something that we cannot control. You can control, what do you call it? You can control, what's the right? Retaliation killings. Very easy control. we're grouping. So you problem animal control, and then you have retaliation killings. Why are you grouping the deaths of these magnificent creatures? Okay, so if you group it as a PAC, it's not that bad. I mean, come on. If you lose 150 elephants a year through PAC, it's not that bad. Why is it not that? I mean, okay, out of, let's say they average 150 a year. That's 302 years, 450. Okay, let's just end at 3 years. 450 elephants killed by Kenya Wildlife Service that we can all prove. How many of those 450 elephants were going to be super tuskers? We have the right genetics. The same bulls are roaming the same ecosystem. 450 elephants in 3 years. How many of them had the potential to become super tuskers? If they listen to the
So look,
people of Kenya,
I'm with you, right?
if they, it's the same communities, the same lives they live. They farm. The Tanzanian people farm. The elephants raid their crops. They don't spear them. They call us Tanzania, Robbie. Tanzania is the only country in East Africa that compensates for human-wildlife conflict or crop raids or whatever you want to call it. Tanzania is the only one. It's the only country that can manage to compensate its people from the revenue generated from the hunting. So you start, number one, the government's going to look after their people. Okay? When these people, you have to put into consideration everything. Okay? These people don't farm a large scale as a business. The man farms a piece of land so he can feed his family. When that elephant goes into his farm, you're killing this person of starvation. He's going to have to look for a different form or a way to feed his family. So it's not like they're trying to play this elephants raiding farms like something that's not a big of a deal. You're fucking around with people's lives here and people's livelihood. The only reason and the only way Tanzania has managed to make sure people do not retaliate, the hunting companies pay enough money. The government compensates its people through the same money being generated of hunting. And that's the only reason we went from 2000 and whatever stats, 2015, or we've doubled the amount of elephants over the last 10 years. We went from 30 to 60,000 and the current number is 80,000 elephants. Now, if you don't put into account why are we not putting into account these elephants being killed in Kenya and what they could have been? So we talk about, okay, professional hunter, we shoot our quota versus what they claim. So I'll take their numbers. They say there's a population of 2,000 elephants in that ecosystem. You take the number we utilize, it's like 0.0017%. If I shoot one elephant, scientists are going to come hammering me about you did not know the exact age of that elephant. What about the 150 elephants? I'm throwing a number that's just accurate. What about, okay, let's just throw a rough number. Let's just add 50 more elephants that die of human-wildlife conflict throughout the whole of Kenya. Let's make it 200 elephants. How many of them were old enough to be killed in those farms? You want to put me on the spotlight for utilizing one elephant to save 1,000, but you've got to categorize these elephants as PAC. You don't put into consideration what age that elephant was speared. You don't put into consideration the length of his ivory at the age he was shot by Kenya Wildlife Service. You don't put into consideration anything. You just group them as PAC and they mean nothing to the whole population. Why attack an industry that's been here for 120 years? It's proof that it's worked. The numbers show it. We preserve land more than... Robbie, I'm going to read you this. Listen to this. I'm going to read you this, and I need people to listen very carefully. I'm starting off Mikumi. That's east central of Tanzania. Mikumi National Park in east central of Tanzania. I'm going to name you the blocks and a corridor from Mikumi National Park in Tanzania that leads to the Serengeti in northern Maasai land. I mean, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of kilometers of sheer wild areas. These are corridors. If an elephant decides to leave Mikumi, I'm naming you the areas they can walk into and safely migrate from Mikumi to the Serengeti. Listen to this. I'm naming you hunting areas. There's not a single stretch of land that is not a hunting area. These are all hunting areas that have preserved these corridors for, decades. Listen to this. You start with Handeni, Masai South, Kitwai North, Kitwai Southwest, Talamai, Ruvu Masai, Masai East, Lobo, Irkishbo, Makame Mkungunero, Landanai, Simanjiro Kichangare, Lord Kisale, Burko, Lake Natron South, Ngasurai, Enduimet, Lake Natron South, Lobo, Neighbor Mut, Mtoambu, Lake Natron East, Lake Natron West, Lake Natron North, and Loliondo. These are corridors that have been conserved
Those are all connected.
by hunting companies. These are all connecting a corridor from east central Tanzania to northern Masailand in the Serengeti. The same elephants migrate from southern Masailand into Kenya back. Now, here's what is ridiculous. Robbie, here's what's ridiculous. The Amboseli National Park, the park they claim generates the most money, cannot maintain a corridor from the Amboseli National Park to the Chuyu Hills. The elephants don't have a corridor to migrate from one national park to a reserve. They're asking for donor money. They're begging. They're going online asking people to donate $10 so they can save one corridor. That's on your left. You have human settlement. On your right, you have human settlement. This is a bomb. It's a time ticking bomb that's about to explode. A tiny corridor, Kimana or whatever they call it. They're asking for donors' money to conserve a corridor that's going to allow the elephants to move from one national park in Kenya to another. I just named you thousands and thousands of square kilometers that are preserved by hunters. They're begging for money to preserve a corridor so small, it's like 5,000 hectares. They can't connect two national parks and they want to lecture us on what to do with the elephants. But what if someone else says this about it? You want us to kill? I mean, what are they trying to tell us? So you want me to suffer the consequences of your failed conservation project? What are we talking about here, Robbie? That I should be careful. I should not do conservation because the NGOs might tell the public I'm doing something wrong.
I absolutely appreciate your passion. And I agree with what you have articulated in the last 2.5 hours. And here, let me summarize where I think we are. Elephant hunting, consumptive use elephant hunting in Tanzania has shown and proven itself as a conservation model to the effect of protecting habitat, providing for people and communities. In this area that is a trans-border population, hunting of elephants is of benefit to the community and is protecting the elephant populations therein. There is an agreement, you have stated it, that the iconic elephants that are very, very important to Kenya, very important to photographics, that are the things that are driving tourism and driving revenues are off limits. It makes sense. Nobody's questioning that. Yeah. Name your 10 bulls, collar your 10 bulls. They're off limits. To us, it's a crime. That would be a crime. It would be a crime against what they are doing there and what they love and what they stand for.
Yeah, but I just think the same way, Robbie. I mean, it's just because we deal with greater conservation. We don't depend. There's not a single hunting block in Tanzania that depends on donor money. So when we raise an argument, we don't have the people that back us. Okay, we don't have the massive social media following they have. Thanks to you today, I can speak up and hopefully reach out to many people as we can. You have a strong platform. Congratulations for what you've been doing so far. But I mean, so if we come to an agreement,
it's a different model. It's a different conservation model.
Let's just talk about one thing here. Let's say as hunters we want to fight back, or as Tanzania being scrutinized right now, we're trying to fight back. We all agree to the fact that these are trans-boundary population with two different conservation methods. We have proved our conservation method to have worked. We average deaths of elephants due to human-wildlife conflict over the last 8 years. These are stats I'm giving you from sources that are very credible, that do the research in Tanzania. We've averaged about 12 to 15 bulls a year. So when you compare that to what Kenya is dealing with, as a neutral argument, you have to agree with me that the model of conservation being done by Tanzania is the right one. Am I correct? On that one topic that...
Yeah, in my mind, the Tanzania model is the Tanzania model for conservation writ large, in terms of its multiple facets, multiple values, including hunting,
Yeah.
is, from a science perspective, from a habitat perspective, from all sorts of elements, is a far greater conservation model than Kenya has.
Okay, perfect. Okay, now as a Tanzanian, I am a Tanzanian. With my Tanzanian people, the people of Tanzania, we are now claiming, and we don't have a platform that's going to support us, but we're launching a claim that our young elephants and our elephant cows and our iconic elephants from Tanzania are being speared and shot by Kenya Wildlife Service in Kenya. It's a transboundary population. It's not like Kenya is losing elephants. We're all losing the same population. We're looking after. We've proved our method of conservation is right. Have you seen anyone from Tanzania trying to force the Kenyan government into reintroducing hunting? We understand and we respect the model of conservation. They need to do the same. They need to understand and respect our model of conservation. And I think the people operating in Kenya needs to respect the Kenyan government. These people go out public and speak before the Kenyan government speaks. Have you heard anything apart from today? Today I see a statement written by the governor of Kajiado.
From the
Today is
governor
the
of the
first,
county.
Today is the first time the government of the county of Kajiado, which I am sure came from pressure from these NGOs. There's not a man in Africa that can relate more to the struggles of the Tanzanian and their people than the governor of Kajiado and his people. For decades, they have struggled to obtain what the people of Tanzania have today. They've finally been handed over what they've been struggling for by President Ruto. And he goes back and tries to reason with his people. I just don't understand what kind of pressure they put on him, but there's not a man that understands the struggle for their people than the governor. He's the one that fought for the revenue to be given back to the communities. Today he speaks up and he speaks against what Tanzania is doing to conserve its wildlife. What if we speak for the decades our elephants, our transporter elephants, transboundary elephants that have been killed in Kenya? Who's going to be accountable? The NGOs will say they're not accountable for human-wildlife conflict. They cannot control what the Maasais can do to the wildlife. Yes, they can. They can have a control over all that. We've shown that we can. We've done it. It's proved. We've done it. Have you seen anyone go out publicly and speak at the whatever they failed on? No, no one's forcing them to do anything. They should stay away from Tanzania's business. I mean, we have so much going on. The last thing we want to hear is cries from the other side of the border telling us what we need to do with the game that's in our country, our land. I just think that's unfair. They need to stick.
I think, somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just before we finish this podcast, before someone can go back, I cannot find the article, but the reason why we did not take that meat to the towns that are neighboring our concession, we are on the border of Kenya and Tanzania, and they are struggling against the bush meat trade in Nairobi. We don't want to drop 6 tons of unidentifiable meat in a village in a trade route that's been proved to be a problem. I'm not going to do that. I mean, the next thing you know,
That makes sense.
someone sells the money, figures out it's an easy way to access the money. The next thing you know, you have all your game starting to be shot again. We are way past poaching in Tanzania. We don't want to go back to it. If my community doesn't feel the urge or the need to eat elephant, I will not feed them elephant, and I will not please the whole world by cutting it up and saying I gave it away. I did not give it away. I buried it. It was the best thing to do at the time.
Zidane, the last thing before I let you go, the last thing I wanted to talk about is this thing that is going around right now, which is you're about to hunt another elephant.
Yes.
We have an opportunity now to get in front of it.
How? How do we have an opportunity to get in front of it? I did not
You're
understand.
talking to me right now.
Well, what do you want to hear about it? It's just
I
like any
think
other.
what you've just said in this entire podcast gets
Well,
out in front. No, I think what you've said in this entire podcast gets out in front of it.
yes.
And let me again, I'll summarize. Not going to
Uh-huh.
kill an iconic bull,
Oh,
not going to kill a collared elephant, and you're going to kill the oldest bull you possibly can find.
yes. And if anyone has a
And
problem,
that bull is a
if
transboundary
anyone,
bull. It's a transboundary bull, and that. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, we talk. There's a few things. There is a few aspects we haven't covered, like the data I shared with you of the collared elephants that migrated all the way from southern Masai land, from the Tarangire National Park. Elephants that traveled from the Serengeti, then Ngorongoro, that came all the way down here. So yes, we do agree that it's a transboundary population, but then they need to agree that we have enough elephants in Tanzania. We have double the number of elephants they have in Kenya. We're almost about to triple it. So not every elephant shot in Tanzania belongs to Kenya or belongs to the Amboseli. I mean, they need to stop being ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's not finish the podcast. Let's talk about it. A lot of the elephants you've shown me collared data, again, photographs that have disappeared, but collared data from Tawiri that shows great corridors of elephants moving from central Tanzania
Yeah,
that move up into the northern areas, sometimes cross into Kenya,
yeah,
and then come back down. But the majority of their time is in Tanzania.
yeah.
So these elephants, again, let me answer this question. Is there a possibility that the elephant that is shot in Enduimet spent 100% of its time in Tanzania?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's what I'm claiming. I'm not claiming that I might have shot. I am claiming a majority of the population we're seeing in Enduimet is not from Kenya. I mean, there is elephants. There is an elephant. I mean, now here, they couldn't conserve a corridor from the Amboseli. Robbie, are you there? They couldn't conserve a
I'm
corridor
here.
from the Amboseli to the Chuyu Hills. So the elephant stuck in the Amboseli pretty much. I mean, I can tell you this with confidence, unless the change that has just been made, the power has been given back to the communities, change anything. But in 5 years' time, those elephants in the Amboseli are going to be stuck there. And to give you a perspective of how ridiculous I think this is, the Amboseli is about what, 390 square kilometers, about that, maybe just shy of 400 square kilometers. Endumet alone, just the hunting side, that's before you put the photographic side into consideration, is almost double the size of the Amboseli National Park. And this is not, I mean, you're still looking at Kilimanjaro National Park, Arusha National Park. I mean, we have vast amount of land where these elephants could live freely. And I mean, these are national parks. So when Tanzania calls a national park, we mean it when we say a national park. There's not single human being in there that's not supposed to be. There's not any kind of human activity. So an elephant could live there from the time it was born to the time it dies without anyone ever seeing it. That's how wild our national parks are. We don't categorize national parks and have cattle in there. So telling me that every elephant I see in northern Masai land somehow belongs to the transborder population is, if not stupid, ridiculous. I mean, our carrying capacity, Robbie, we've talked about 8% and 43%. Our carrying capacity in Tanzania versus the people claiming that there might be a few of, elephants they claim is there is it's not even an argument. I mean, to put it into perspective, the the 8% of protected area in the whole country of Kenya. Listen to this very carefully, Robbie. The 8% that is protected in the whole country of Kenya is equal. The same land mass in Kenya that's protected is equal to just two of our national parks. If you put the Nyerere National Park and the Serengeti National Park, you combine them, you have the whole protected area in Kenya. So I think them giving us a speech of a better way to conserve our wildlife is almost ridiculous. I think they should go look for something else to do.
Yeah, I think it's an important point. I think there's an important point here that these elephants. I think I'll again. I've tried to summarize this a couple of times, but in my brain, you've got an elephant population that's transient, an elephant population that is substantially larger in Tanzania. One could argue, based on science and data, that there is a lot of Tanzanian elephants occupying Enduimet. Yes, there's some Amboseli elephants occupying Enduimet. But of a population of 2,000 elephants in Amboseli, there's probably, again, 10 to 15, let's just call it 15, elephants that are the most important elephants to that system. When you look at mortality in that system, there's mortality that coming from problem animal control, there's mortality coming from KWS, there's mortality coming from human wildlife conflict, and very, very, very small percentage, as you said, 3 elephants a year coming from hunting. The system is a very dynamic system, and there's an ethic that we've discussed on this podcast from you, the hunter, to say, I'm not going to hit those 15 elephants. That's not what I'm going to do. I've seen some of them already on foot. I'm not going to kill them. It's a crime. It's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt elephant hunting. Those elephants should not be taken. That does not mean that I'm not allowed to elephant hunt, because I have that as a right, a government right, a consumptive use model right. I am doing things legally. I'm doing things the best way that I know how, which is targeting the oldest bulls in my area. And that's what you would hope for from a hunting perspective. So to me, there is a compromise here. The compromise is the bulls that you really, really care about, that you see all the time, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Those aren't the bulls we're going to target. And I'll say this, and I told you I podcasted with Michelle. The ultimate would be, as I've told you, take a video with one of those iconic tuskers and wave and say, we're not touching this elephant. Or even better, and I'm not advocating for this, I promise, but could you spray paint a Z on the backside of that elephant and let it go back into Kenya and say, this is how close we got to this elephant?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
there's
just saying,
definitely.
I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious, all
I
right?
completely agree with
I'm
everything.
being facetious.
I think, and I agree, there is a compromise. I mean, like you say, we talk about democracy. I think as long as I follow the rules that govern the industry I operate in, I don't break any rules. I don't think anyone has the right from any other country to come take that away from me. I just think, I think the compromise would be, gentlemen, we're going to have collared bulls and we're going to have a set number of bulls that should not be touched completely. And I think it should be an argument between the operators, the researchers in Kenya, that anyone, whether by accident or not, I mean, do I ever see? Can you not? I don't ever see that happening. That one of the outfitters in Tanzania or the operators in Tanzania ever shooting one of those iconic bulls. I mean, they stand out, Robbie. So I don't see that ever happening. But until then, I just think there should be a compromise. I think tempers. People should come down, sit on a table, and discuss the future of this delicate population, as they term it. But I think we have more elephants than we think. I think there's a very healthy population. I'm talking on the Tanzanian side. I don't know about the Kenyans. And something else before we end the podcast. There's two things I'd like us to discuss about. Two very very important things. Now I'm gonna ask you the questions on this podcast. Robbie, how is a super tusker made? How does it come to become a super tusker? What leads up to an elephant becoming a super tusker?
So my response would be genetics and age.
Do we have the genetics? Do you think the genetics are there in northern Tanzania?
Based on the videos that I have seen, the photos that you've briefly showed me that have disappeared, photos from everywhere else that I've seen from the Tarangire population that comes up into the north, the elephants that are in Kilimanjaro National Park and in Amboseli, you have the genetics.
Yeah. If there was a way, uh, the biggest problem we see here, this is an ever problem. It's going to keep happening all over Africa. The human wildlife conflict. Let's say we get rid of the human wildlife conflict like we have done in Tanzania, and we let these elephants live to their full potential. Like I said before, hunters take about 0.0017 of the population. We're not going to put a dent. If these elephants are left and not speared, not poisoned, not shot at because of retaliation killings, not shot at by KWS, not shot at by Tawa, if our elephants, if we come to a sustainable conservation method that's going to allow these elephants to flourish, do you think we're going to have more super tuskers in 10, 15, 20 years' time than we have now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, I think from our side, we've proved how we have left our elephants grow. They're not being killed. The number of offtake of these elephants due to human wildlife conflict and whatnot, the hunting, this and that, we've managed to take it to 0.00 whatever the figures are. It's almost, it doesn't even, it doesn't make a difference to the population. If we keep at the same rate, if we keep losing the elephants we're losing now at the same rate, our elephant population will just skyrocket in the next 10 to 15 years. But do you think, can anyone speak for the same in Kenya? It's already proved to be a failure. There's not any signs of that ever stopping. I mean, it's such a small piece of land that's protected. I think I sent you a message before. The Kenyan government is in work. It's very close to legalizing mining in national parks. It's going to happen before the end of this year. So within the 8% that's protected, they're going to legalize the mining again. Do you see any future there? Because I can tell you one thing. They shut down the hunting of elephants. Yes, we don't have the audience. Yes, we don't have the people that speak for us. But me and you, Robbie, we're the ones talking today. If they shut down the elephant hunting in northern Masai land, I can guarantee you on my life, they will not go a month without me sending you a picture of an elephant carcass. It's not necessarily that the hunting that we shoot every elephant that raids the crops. We started by saying the revenue generated helps the government compensate the people. We have our own compensation schemes. And it's a mentality for the people knowing there's hunters in the areas. When they laugh now, before you wouldn't even step in a Maasai's boma when an elephant's raid is farm. I mean, they're in tears. They're so mad they want to go spear that elephant. Now it's like a joke. They know they're going to be compensated for the exact amount of land damaged by the elephant. They treat them, they're like, this kids came back. They call them kids. They're like, this kids came back and raided my crops. That's where we've gotten to with our method of conservation in Tanzania. I mean, if these
Well,
people
look, I
really
appreciate.
yeah, if these people really want the super tuskers, if they want the future generations to see them, then I think just follow the trend, follow and see what works. Don't make decisions off your emotions. See at what has been proved to work.
Yep, yep. Well said. Well said. Well, Zidane, I really appreciate you being willing and open to have such a lengthy discussion with me. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your viewpoint and your perspective. I appreciate you allowing me to have this conversation with you.
Appreciate it, Robbie.
And please let us know if there's any opportunity in the future. If you want to say some more, if you want to put something out there, if another elephant is hunted and you want to say, okay, here it is. Here's all the information.
Yeah,
Everyone wants the information. Here's the information. We'll do it.
Robbie, you've been very neutral on whatever's going on. You're in contact with both sides. You can let them know, or if they're listening to this, let them know that if I guide an elephant, if Kilombero North Safaris guides an elephant in northern Masada, if they need anything for scientific research, for the better of conservation, we have nothing to hide. We have absolutely nothing. We have pictures of the elephants' feet, the elephants' tusks, the elephants. I mean, every little detail they need for scientific research. If they need to match an elephant to one of the elephants they were researching, reach out to us in a nice, respectful manner. Okay, we'll give you the information you need. We have nothing to hide.
Well, Zidane, you officially made the longest podcast on blood origins.
Thank you.
470 odd episodes, but it was needed and it was worth it. And again, we've got plenty time. We'll do this again. Absolutely. You tell me, if you want to, again, we can talk about the next elephant or whatever. This is an open platform, and I appreciate your honesty and your authenticity here today. Okay.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Robbie. Thank you very much for taking your time.